Welcome to another deep dive with us. Today we're going to be looking at the 6 systems of Hindu philosophy. So these systems are not just abstract ideas, they're really offering us practical ways to understand life and find freedom from suffering, which is, kind of the goal of a lot of Eastern traditions.
Yes.
So should we take a look at each system individually then?
Sure. Let's start with Nyaya.
Okay.
This is often called the science of correct thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and it really emphasizes logic and reason.
Okay.
One of the key ideas in Nyaya is this concept of pramanas, which are basically valid ways of acquiring knowledge. There's 4 of them, but Nyaya really focuses on pratyaksha, which is like a direct perception, kind of like a flash of intuition.
Oh, so is it saying that intuition is just as important as logical thinking?
You could say that, it values both careful reasoning and that immediate knowing that comes from direct experience.
Okay.
Next, we have Vaisheshika, which kind of builds on Nyaya, where Nyaya is about how we think Vaisheshika focuses more on the objects of our perception.
Right.
Their unique qualities, their categories.
So it's a bit like a scientist trying to categorize and understand the natural world.
Exactly. And Vaisheshika proposes 6 categories of experience, and it sees the world as being made up of these tiny eternal atoms.
Okay, so we've talked about Nyaya and Vaisheshika. What comes next?
The next system is Purva Mimamsa.
Okay.
And this one dives into the concept of Dharma, or duty.
Right.
And it explores how Dharma is presented in the Vedas and Upanishads.
And how does Purva Mimamsa approach this idea of Dharma?
Well, it introduces this fascinating concept called apurva,
Okay.
which is an unseen force that connects every action to its result.
Oh, wow.
You can think of it like a cosmic cause and effect principle.
So even if we don't see the results right away, our actions still have consequences.
That's the idea.
All right, what's next?
Vedanta.
Okay.
This system is focused on the Upanishads, and it explores Brahman, which is the ultimate reality.
Okay.
And it delves into what Brahman is and how it relates to our individual selves.
So it's more focused on our inner world and understanding this concept of Brahman.
Yeah. It's about looking inward and understanding the nature of reality and our place within it.
Okay.
Now, within Vedanta, there are actually a few different interpretations.
Okay.
You have Shankaracharya's Advaita Vedanta, which proposes a non-dualistic view, basically saying that Brahman is the only true reality and everything else is an illusion.
Right.
Then you have Ramanuja, who offered a qualified non-dualism called Vishishtadvaita.
Okay.
He still saw Brahman as the ultimate reality, but he believed that individual souls and the material world still had their own separate reality,
Okay.
though dependent on Brahman.
So it's less about illusion and more about the interconnectedness of everything.
Yeah, Ramanuja believed that everything was connected to Brahman in a real way. And then you have Madhva, who proposed Dvaita Vedanta, which is a fully dualistic view, where Brahman, the individual soul, and the material world are all seen as completely separate entities.
So even within Vedanta, there's a lot of room for different perspectives.
Yes, definitely.
What about the next system then?
Next, we have Sankhya.
Okay.
This system dives into a dualistic view of reality, making a very clear distinction between Purusha, which is the self or spirit, and Prakriti, which is the material world.
Okay.
And it really focuses on these 3 fundamental forces called guna, sattva, rajas, and tamas, which are constantly interacting and shaping our experience of the world.
Right. You mentioned that sattva is about purity and knowledge. Rajas is about action and passion, and then tamas is about inertia and ignorance. Okay, so if Sankhya focuses on these fundamental forces that shape our experience, where does that leave the last system, yoga? How does that fit in?
Think of yoga as the practical application of Sankhya's principles.
Okay.
It uses Sankhya as a framework, but it's about actively working with those gunas, using techniques to quiet the mind and ultimately experience the freedom of Purusha.
So if Sankhya is the map, yoga is the journey.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yoga provides a set of tools, the 8 limbs, to help us navigate that journey.
Okay, so we've gone through all 6 systems, each with its own unique approach to understanding reality and finding liberation.
Yes.
What do you think is the most valuable takeaway from this overview? What should our listener really understand about these systems as a whole?
I think the most valuable takeaway is that these systems aren't just abstract philosophies.
Right.
Swami Harshananda emphasizes that they're meant to be lived, experienced, and tested in your own life.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not just about having the right ideas, but about applying them to your life and seeing how they work.
Exactly.
I think that's particularly relevant for us today. We are constantly bombarded with information and different viewpoints, but the real challenge is figuring out how to integrate that knowledge into our lives and use it to find greater understanding and freedom from suffering.
Absolutely. It's about going beyond just knowing things to actually applying that knowledge and seeing how it can transform your experience of the world.
Now, Iyer's article brought up this idea about the power of mantras and how each sound in the Sanskrit alphabet holds a deeper cosmic significance.
Yes.
It's like they're not just words, but vibrations that can impact us on a deeper level.
Yeah, and this connects to the idea of yoga as a union of the self with the divine. The sounds themselves can be part of that journey.
So there's a lot to unpack here. We've looked at the 6 systems of Hindu philosophy, each with its own perspective on reality, from Nyaya's focus on logic and reason to yoga's emphasis on practice and meditation.
Yeah.
And we've even touched on the idea of mantras.
It's been quite a journey.
It has.
But we've only just scratched the surface.
Right.
There's so much more to explore in each of these systems.
Absolutely. But I think it's time to take a breath and let all this sink in for a bit before we dive deeper.
Indeed, but before we go, I'd like to leave our listener with a question. Looking at how these systems connect, which one speaks to you most deeply? Which one resonates most with your own experience of the world?
That's a great question to think about. And if this has piqued your interest and you want to learn more, there's some amazing resources out there like the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads.
Yes.
They offer deeper insights into the ideas we've touched on today.
Definitely.
We'd love to hear your thoughts and questions, so feel free to share them with us. Until next time, keep diving deep.
So now that we've laid the groundwork a little bit, let's delve a little deeper into a few of these systems.
Okay.
We'll start with Sankhya and yoga, as they have a pretty close relationship.
Okay, that makes sense. You mentioned earlier that Sankhya makes this clear distinction between the self Purusha and the material world Prakriti.
Right.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so Sankhya sees Purusha as this pure consciousness, the silent observer of all of our experiences. It's unchanging and eternal. Prakriti, on the other hand, is like the ever-changing material world, everything we experience through our senses.
So it's suggesting that there's a part of us that's completely separate from all the stuff that's going on around us.
Yeah, it suggests that there's a part of us that remains untouched by all the ups and downs of life.
Okay.
And it's this recognition, this understanding of the distinction between Purusha and Prakriti that kind of sets the stage for liberation.
I see. So by understanding this distinction, we can start to detach ourselves from the constant fluctuations of the material world.
Exactly.
Right.
Now remember, those 3 forces, the guna, sattva, rajas, and tamas, Sankhya says, they're constantly interacting within Prakriti.
Right.
Influencing our thoughts, our emotions, our actions.
Right. You mentioned that sattva is about purity and knowledge, rajas is about action and passion, and tamas represents inertia and ignorance. How does understanding these forces help us on the path to liberation?
Well, Sankhya suggests that liberation comes when we realize that our true self, Purusha, is beyond the influence of these gunas. It's about recognizing that we are not our thoughts, our emotions, or even our actions.
That's a powerful concept. So Sankhya is about understanding the nature of reality and our place within it. How does yoga then build on these ideas?
So yoga takes the principles of Sankhya and it puts them into practice.
Okay.
It's about actively working with those gunas, using techniques to quiet the mind and ultimately experience the freedom of Purusha.
So if Sankhya is the map, yoga is the journey?
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
No.
Yoga provides a set of tools, the 8 limbs, to help us navigate that journey.
Okay, we talked about the 8 limbs before, but could you just remind us again what they are and how they work together to achieve this liberation?
Sure, so the first 2 limbs are yamas and niyamas.
Okay.
And these are ethical guidelines for how we live in the world and how we treat ourselves.
Right.
They're about cultivating qualities like nonviolence, truthfulness, contentment, and self-discipline.
So before we even get to the physical postures, yoga emphasizes the importance of living an ethical life.
Absolutely. Then comes asana, the physical postures we often associate with yoga.
Right.
It's about creating a stable and comfortable body ready for deeper practices.
So it's not just about flexibility or fitness.
No, it's about preparing the body and the mind for deeper exploration.
Okay.
The 4th limb is pranayama, which focuses on breath control.
Why is breath control so important in yoga?
Well, in yoga, the breath is seen as this bridge between the body and the mind.
Okay.
By regulating the breath, we can calm the nervous system and create a sense of inner peace.
Okay, so we've covered the first 4 limbs. What about the last 4?
Yeah.
They seem to delve into more mental and spiritual practices.
Yeah, so the 5th limb is pratyahara,
Yeah.
which is the withdrawal of the senses.
Go.
It's about consciously turning our attention inward, away from external distractions.
So it's like turning down the volume on the outside world so we can focus on what's happening inside.
Exactly.
Okay.
The 6th limb is dharana, which is focused concentration.
Mm-hmm.
It's about training the mind to stay fixed on a single point.
And then comes dhyana meditation, right?
Yes, dhyana is the 7th limb.
Okay.
And it's about reaching a state of effortless absorption in the object of our awareness.
So it sounds like a progression from focusing the mind to completely immersing it in a state of meditation.
Yeah, and this leads to the 8th limb, samadhi.
Okay.
This is like the ultimate goal of yoga,
Mhm.
a state of transcendent awareness where the sense of separation dissolves and we experience this oneness.
Okay, that was a really helpful overview of the 8 limbs.
Sure.
Do you have to master all of them, though, to achieve that state of liberation?
Well, traditionally, all 8 limbs are seen as important, each one kind of supporting the others.
Okay.
But, even just focusing on one or two, like cultivating nonviolence in your interactions, can lead to pretty profound shifts in your experience.
So it's not an all-or-nothing approach.
Yeah.
You can tailor the practice to fit your own needs and goals.
Exactly. The most important thing is to find a practice that resonates with you and helps you move towards greater self-awareness and inner peace.
Okay, so we've explored Sankhya and yoga. They offer a clear framework for understanding the nature of reality and the practical tools to experience liberation.
Yeah.
What about some of the other systems? Where should we go next on our journey?
Let's turn our attention to another system, Purva Mimamsa.
Okay.
Unlike Sankhya and yoga, which really emphasize understanding the self and the material world,
Right.
Purva Mimamsa focuses on this concept of Dharma and the importance of Vedic rituals.
Okay, you mentioned before that Dharma can be understood as duty. How does Purva Mimamsa approach this concept?
Well, Purva Mimamsa sees Dharma as a way to align ourselves with the cosmic order,
Okay.
the underlying principles of reality.
Mm-hmm.
And the way to do this is through the correct performance of Vedic rituals.
Okay, so rituals are central to this system. Why are they considered so important?
Well, Purva Mimamsa sees rituals as a way to connect with the divine,
All right.
to access a deeper level of reality.
Mhm.
They're not just empty actions, but a way to purify our karma and create positive consequences. Remember the concept of Purva?
Yes, the unseen force that connects our actions to their results.
Exactly. Purva Mimamsa suggests that rituals, when performed correctly, can generate apurva and lead us toward liberation.
So it's not just about going through the motions, but about understanding the deeper meaning behind the rituals and performing them with the right intention.
Precisely. Intention is key in Purva Mimamsa.
Okay.
The system emphasizes that the effectiveness of a ritual really depends on the understanding and intention of the person performing it.
That makes sense. It's not just about blind faith, but about consciously engaging with the rituals and understanding their purpose.
Right. Purva Mimamsa is a system that values both action and knowledge and sees them as intertwined on the path to liberation.
So we've explored systems like Sankhya and yoga, which emphasize self-knowledge and inner transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And now Purva Mimamsa, which emphasizes the power of ritual action and intention. It seems like each system offers a unique piece of the puzzle when it comes to understanding life and finding liberation.
Yeah, they each offer different tools and perspectives. Right.
And while they might seem distinct at first, they all ultimately converge on a common goal.
Yeah.
Understanding the nature of reality and finding a way out of suffering.
That's a great point. They're all part of a larger tapestry of wisdom, each contributing to a more holistic understanding.
Exactly. And as we delve deeper into any one of these systems, we're bound to find connections and insights that enrich our understanding of the others.
Well, this has been an incredible journey through some of the most profound ideas in Hindu philosophy. We've explored 6 unique systems, each offering a different way of looking at the world and ourselves.
Yes.
We've talked about logic and intuition, about the self and the material world, about the power of action and intention, and about the ultimate goal of liberation.
It's been a fascinating
It
exploration.
really has.
And remember, this is just the beginning. There's a wealth of knowledge and wisdom to be uncovered in each of these systems.
Absolutely. And we encourage you to keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep into this rich world of Hindu philosophy.
You might be surprised at what you discover about yourself and the universe along the way.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
And we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.